from one Ontario team with a new coach to another. We go from red to green, a little bit like Christmas here with these colors.
It feels like it.
It does feel like Christmas for all of us. We move over to the Greater Toronto area and, of course, to York. And Martin Nash is the new man in charge at York following Jim Brennan's guidance to York United in the playoffs last season. We'll start with that, I think. We've got a lot of storylines with this team. No doubt about it. The team at the forefront of playing young Canadians, flourishing. Isaiah Johnston, Max Ferrari, Cedric Toussaint, many others getting chances. York made the playoffs last year. They won 8 out of 28 games in the regular season, drew 12, lost 8. Made it all the way to the semifinals before losing to Forge 3-1 in the rain and cold. And yes, it is still rainy and cold in Hamilton. This is where we're at. This is the long winter we're in. At Tim Hortons Field back in November. They did make it to the Final Four, but they've changed the gaffer, and Martin Nash is in charge. And he seems like a perfect man at the perfect time for this team, Charlie. A guy who's ready for his opportunity, a guy who's ready to play with young players. He's got a fantastic resume himself, of course, with a wonderful career making it to the national team, and somebody that says he's learned a lot under Tommy Wheeldon Jr. as an assistant in Cavalry.
Yeah, he definitely has, and he's learned a lot from a lot of his time at the game. I think he's been an assistant coach at other levels, Ottawa, I think, for a bit, and I think he was a national team assistant for a little bit as well. And it does feel like the perfect time for him as well to step into a head coaching role. I think he maybe had outgrown the assistant's role in Cavalry, and he did seem like one of the more obvious choices for the next CPL assistant to step into a head coaching job. And it's going to be interesting. I think he's a very different coach, a very different character to Jim Brennan. Mm-hmm. And that's something that every York player that we've spoken to has echoed. They're going to be a different team this year with a slightly different tactical identity, maybe a little bit more of an organized approach, more methodical build-up play he wants to see, because last year's York team were pretty high octane. They played quite direct a lot of the time with that kind of counter-attacking, and that's not entirely going to go away. You know, you can't stop Max Ferrari from being a direct player, I think, but it's going to be maybe a little bit more of a measured approach to ensure that there's more left in the tank for this team at the end of the season, which certainly was a bit of an issue towards the end of last year. So I think that this is going to be a very fun team to watch. There's lots of just fascinating young players on this team. You know, the other one that you didn't mention is Lowell Wright, who's going to the Canadian under-20 camp next week after tomorrow night's game. There's a lot to like about this York team. They're on quite an upward trajectory. Last year was a pretty big step forward for them, and I think that there's certainly the capability of taking another one. I think there's more depth in the squad this year as well. You know, it seems like almost every position there's some competition for that starting role. So they're definitely going to be one of the teams to watch this year.
Yeah, I love this team. I got to say, you talk about strength and depth, that, you know, they're going to be tested this season and given chances. You know, some of the international overseas players, I think, are going to need a little bit of time. And some of the young Canadian players are going to need a little bit of a breather. Like, you think last season, the schedule was so congested, yet Max Ferrari played every game apart from the last game when he didn't need to play. You know, Isaiah Johnston played 25 games last season, right? Cedric Toussaint played 24 games last season. Lowell Wright played 26 games. You know, they just played so much. A lot of the reasons why, because some of the other players, you know, Faria, Harley, Laverne, Rivero, they didn't, Ramirez, they weren't necessarily relied upon to give those minutes. Now you look at some of the players that they brought in, and they're proper players. I think they're players that can play significant minutes. Yes. As you said, a lot of overseas players they brought in. Mamadou Kane's coming from the CF Montreal Academy. He'll certainly help cover that areas as well when Wright's gone. William Wallace, who's got Fluminense on his resume, and I've seen him play already. A very, very attacking, direct player with his left foot, can cut in off the wing. And what a great name it is. Spoken like a true, Scotsman, William Wallace from Brazil. I love Mateo Hernandez. He's my favorite signing. A very creative midfielder, an outstanding resume, who's played at a very high level in South America. And by the way, brings a bit of bite. If you're playing against him, you're not going to like him. And I love that if he's playing for my team. But you mentioned it. They have made some changes. And Martin Nash is a very astute manager. As I said, I spoke to all these coaches recently. I spoke to him again today in his press conference, which went very well for him. He's excited about their debut. His debut behind the bench tomorrow night, by the way. You can go out to watch it at York Lions Stadium as York United start the season off against Halifax Wanderers. 7:30 p.m. live also on OneSoccer. But yeah, here is a clip from Martin Nash as I asked him what some of the areas he wanted to improve on from 2021.
Personally, I think the team was very transitional last year, and I'd like them to be a little bit less transitional because then you get a bit too exposed at times. And they did a good job of dealing with it, but I think it'd be nicer if the team wasn't so exposed at times and a little bit less transitional.
Very quick, very honest. And, you know, by the way, he's probably been used to those answers because when he got the job, I'm sure he had to answer some of those questions as well. I want to say this quickly. This is a Canadian league for Canadians. And that's not just players. Coaches like Martin Nash, and by the way, we're going to get into Cavalry later. Nick Ledgerwood is now stepping into that role, and I'm sure he'll be a coach. It's also a Canadian league for Canadians to use their coaching stripes and get the opportunities like this. Martin Nash more than deserves it, but that's the chance now for a Canadian to come behind the bench and get his opportunity here as well, and to work with young Canadians. And that's when I said earlier about Ferrari and Johnston and many others, they're going to be inspired by Nash because he's been there and done it, much like they were with Jim Brennan last season, Charlie.
Absolutely. And it's not just working with young players in an academy level or something like that. It's working with young players in a professional league and getting them accustomed to what that means day in, day out to be a professional footballer, because that's at the end of the day what all of these players want to be. Yeah. Whether it's here, whether it's abroad, up a level, MLS, wherever. That's what they need to learn at this age so that they can do that. And Martin Nash has that experience as a player, as a coach, and again, it is these opportunities for Canadian coaches to come into the league and to, continue to have that kind of impact on the game. There are so many Canadian coaches that have similarly found that opportunity in the league that wasn't there before. There's now 8 professional head coaching jobs that didn't exist 4 years ago. So that can't be understated either, because Canada hasn't actually produced a ton of top level coaches over the years, partly because there just haven't been anywhere for these coaches to go
opportunity,
at a good level.
Right?
Exactly. Yeah. So it's the exact same thing as it is with the players. So, and York is really, really embracing that at the moment.
They're an exciting team to watch, an exciting team to get behind. We talked last year about squeezing everything they possibly could out of that thin squad and a young squad. It probably caught up with them, to be honest. They trailed in every game of their last 9 matches, and in the end also get a little bit too far to battle with fortune in the semi-final. But Martin Nash told us and the media today the priority is absolutely to get in the playoffs, and then almost a new season starts from there. One of the most exciting young players in this team, and a player that a lot of people are watching, not just in CPL, by the way, across North America, is Max Ferrari, a player where you can play him on the right, on the left, in midfield. And even since Martin Nash said today, if you ever asked him, you can play him centre back. Not that he will be, but he's that kind of player who trains hard and just does everything that he wants. Here he is, Max Ferrari, who recently sat down with our Charlie.
What's the kind of attitude around the team at the moment, knowing that you're playing a game in just a week?
I think a lot of it's building on from last year. Obviously, we got into the playoffs, proved a lot of people wrong all year, especially with the young group of guys we have, and especially the vets helping us throughout the way. And we kept a lot of good pieces, obviously added a lot of new faces, a lot of good new faces, coaching staff, and then some new players. And this year it's the same type of vibe. It feels like a family at York, and it's enjoyable. I mean, yeah, it's exciting. And going into April 7th, we're excited, and this year we want to do better than last year.
That's got to be exciting, right? To be part of this group that's kind of building something that's sort of what the CPL is all about, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, especially me being a hometown kid. I'm from Newmarket, Ontario, so I'm playing for my York region team, my home team, and yeah, just knowing the project that everyone has behind this, Angus and Nash, it's exciting. I want to pick up from what we did last season. I feel like we did good, but there was a lot we can build off of, because for me, thinking about that playoffs, like, there's a weird feeling in my brain thinking about that, because I feel like there was a lot to play left at Tim Hortons Field. At 1-1, I feel like we all wanted to do more and be in that final.
Again, yourself last year, you played a few different roles this team, left, right. I think you played a couple of games at fullback.
Yeah.
What was it kind of like for you to try yourself in a few different roles, and just where are you most comfortable personally? How do you see yourself as a player?
For me, yeah, I always grew up I wasn't very fast. I was pretty small, and I was usually in that midfield position, central midfield position. But as I got older, a bit quicker, I've now played on the wing. But last year, I want to say I played, I think it was 10 or 11 games at fullback. For me, I like that. I like the fullback role. I'm starting to learn a lot about it. Even the wingback role, I like it.
I don't think anybody would have called you slow last year. But you mentioned coach there. There's a new coach this year with Martin Nash coming in to take over. What's he like as a coach? How is he maybe different from Jimmy Brennan last year? And what has this preseason been like with him kind of coming in and establishing himself?
From day one, Martin's been great to me. Right when we found out that he was coaching, we got into contact, and yeah, just a great guy with the same ambitions as a lot of us. We want to win here, and he knows what I can bring as a player, and as me being who I am, I like to ask a lot of questions, and he's there for me every time I need something.
What kind of expectations do you have for yourself this year? Like, what do you want to see from yourself?
Yeah, obviously I think I had a good season last year. Personally, I want to clean up a lot of things, especially I think everyone will say this, they want to improve their stats, but for me, I think, I want to improve my goals and assists, but even defensively, as we were saying, as a fullback or stuff, I want to clean that side. I'm still learning a lot because it's only been a year for me playing there, and just learning every day.
And I think this season should be a little bit, different, maybe better, just because it's more spread out.
Yeah.
I think a lot of guys around the league, including on your team, would admit that you sort of ran out of gas a little bit towards the end of last season, right? And especially as young players, you push really hard for a little bit, and then you're kind of out of steam by the end. I'm sure that's kind of something that you guys could feel last year.
Yeah, I want to say it was 33 games in 4 or 5 months, so it was a lot, especially for me. I played every game. And towards the end, you could feel it. Obviously, that's no excuse for the form we had at the end, whatever. But I think this year will be a bit better. It looks like the schedule will be more spread out, more time for us to rest.
We've seen players, especially at other teams around the league, impress in the CPL and then move up, right? In the world, we saw the two guys from Pacific getting signed by TFC this offseason. Does that drive you to sort of continue to compete and to play well in the CPL?
Yeah, since I was a kid, my biggest thing is proving everyone wrong, and seeing these guys make it to the MLS and doing well in the MLS and even other levels, it gives me that little push to I want to be, because for me, I want to be at the highest level. I know a lot of people want to play at the highest level, and seeing how good these guys are doing, those two guys at TFC this year, it makes me have that, I don't want to say hope, but that feeling that I can push myself to that next level.
You guys have to play a game next week. You got to play a few more after that in this season. What are you looking forward to most about getting back on the pitch, and especially that first game at home?
I'm excited to play in front of our fans at York Lions Stadium is the main thing, for friends and family. I'm just excited with this group. I think we're all excited, and we want to win games here. Build on from what we did last year, and it's just exciting to play football again. It's good to be back.
Great to have him back. Max Ferrari, still only 21. And talking about numbers in the 20s, last season we did something called CPL 50, where many prominent media members got to vote on their best players, and Max Ferrari came in at number 20. He was a dynamic player last year, no doubt about it. And as Jeff alludes to in the chat, York easily is one of the dark horses. He also mentioned there, as you great questions and great answers, by the way, they played 28 league games stretched over 6 months this year. That's right. Yep. April 7th to October 9th. That is significant for them. And overall, I think this team's an exciting one. We should also mention the future looks extremely bright for them. The news this winter are coming out about the Woodbine complex as well, where they could actually get a move. As a new stadium coming out there. That's fantastic for soccer in that region. We've spent many, many hours with many passionate fans at York Lions Stadium around this team, previously known as York 9, now, of course, with that magnificent crest, York United. And this just feels like a team that's on the rise on and off the pitch under a proper coach, a really good management group, and some outstanding young players. A lot to like about this group, Charlie.
Yes, there absolutely is. And you mentioned the stadium complex thing. Angus McNabb spoke a little bit about that the whole news recently from Woodbine Entertainment about that. That's something that the club has been working with them really hard on for actually quite a long time. So they're very happy to be able to finally start sharing that.
Yeah.
And that's, again, very exciting for that club to really build something in a community that they're looking at. But on the pitch, this is going to be one of the most fun teams in the league to watch. There's all of these young Canadian players that really are the reason for this league to exist. And they're complemented by some players from international, from around the world that have played the game at incredible levels. They're going to bring just such entertainment value. I don't know if we've mentioned Sebastian Gutierrez yet, but
no,
he is a phenomenally talented, creative player who I think is going to catch a lot of eyes this year, and the club believes so as well. But there's so many names on this list. And as we alluded to, the season stretched out over 6 months will mean that we'll have a much higher quality of football. Players will be fitter and healthier. You'll be able to see teams use their depth and rotate and just really achieve the best versions of themselves. So that's maybe the thing I'm most excited for this year.
Yeah, lots of good signings coming in. Martin Greitside, they obviously from the Czech Republic with a brilliant resume as well. Once obviously looked at by Arsenal and from Victoria Poulsen. And I like Jesus as well, the left back. There's a lot of good players here, so keep an eye on that.